We're joined by our CEO, Simon Hepburn, and Martin Smith, who is the founder of the Security Awareness Special Interest Group, SASIG. And today we're going to be talking about Martin's career journey from the Royal Air Force Security to his Lifetime Achievement Award. And we hope you enjoyed the session. If you have any questions as we go through, please pop them in the chat and we will answer the questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. So, I mean, just I think a start for 10. Thank you for joining us, Martin. I must say, just a start for 10. I met Martin, I think, when I first secured my role as the chief exec for the council, and ever since the day that we've basically met and interacted and engaged, Martin has been absolute, super supportive, understanding, share knowledge, share contacts, share networks. And I just want to say, before we formally start, a massive thank you for all your support, Martin. I think it's really important that people are aware that I've got some real key supporters in the profession, that people with a lot of credibility, gravitas, and you're definitely one of those. So just a massive thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm very flattered. To me, it was an absolute no-brainer. The fact that you're doing so much so quickly and so well is just a bonus. But our industry has been craving a coordinating body for as long as I've been in it, which goes back to 1981. So that's more than 40 years. I think we've had this conversation before. I've seen a number of attempts to create a body. And there have always been tensions and reasons why it's not worked. And I am so pleased to see that this time it is. So all strength to you, and we will continue to support you in any way that we can.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Martin. And so let's talk about you and your journey and what Helen was just alluding to there. So tell us about you. I'm always interested in, when I'm obviously talking to interviewing, I'm always interested in people's journeys into cybersecurity, into the profession. It's everything from school, parents, growing up, school, choices of exams, etc., and that journey, especially into the RAF and that kind of journey. So tell us about you. Just take your time and take us through your journey from childhood to now.
Well, as you can see from the screen, it's quite a long journey now. I was originally going to be a doctor, but I genuinely cannot stand the sight of blood. And at the last minute, I didn't go to medical school. I genuinely couldn't have faced it. I'm like Doc Martin. And so I ended up going and reading behavioral psychology at university and joined the University Air Squadron, and always intended to join the Air Force as a fighter pilot in 1975. And I went to Cranwell to learn to fly, but unfortunately I wasn't good enough. I would have very quickly killed myself and all those around me. So I then transferred across. All life is just an accident. None of this was by planning. I moved across into the security provost branch, which it's the equivalent to the RM. Well, it's like the Int Corps and RMP combined in the army. And got into counterintelligence and counterespionage very early on. And in 1981 was given a special project. I was never much of a, was never in a gang when I was a kid, so I was never one for doing big jobs. They always gave me the one-off jobs that no one else would do. And they said, look, computer security, we need you to write a chapter for the Air Force manual. That was a blank page that said this page is left intentionally blank. There was nothing in it. This is 1981. We had mainframe computers, green screens, copper cables. There was no such thing as PCs or the internet or anything. It was in really early primitive days. So I started designing the chapter for the Air Force manual, but also designing the first tri-service computer security training courses. We called them Computer Security 1 and Computer Security 2. And we genuinely had no idea what it was all about. So we were researching it. And it was not long after that I organized a lunch at RAF Brampton, which was then headquarters of Support Command. And I got everybody together under Dame Emma Nicholson. Not many people are going to remember Emma, but she was a real driving force behind this. She was putting forward the new British standard 7799, which became the ISO 7001.
Right.
We had a lunch at the RAF officers' mess at Brampton. There were perhaps 20 people around that table, and they represented just about anybody and everybody that was in computer security. This is in the mid-80s.
Right.
And 4 of those people went on to be part of the author panel for the original British Standard. So we're talking early days here, very, very early days. And now when I see where our industry has gone, I'm very proud of the fact that it's gone from nothing to trillions of dollars a year, and I've managed to avoid vast majority of that money in that career. Watched other people get very rich very quickly. I was in the wrong bit of it.
Okay.
So that's how far I go back in this business.
Yeah, excellent. And can you tell us about the kind of the career opportunities that you had both in the RAF and post RAF? So what did you do after the RAF?
Well, I was always focused on the human aspect. As I said, my degree's in behavioral psychology. I'm a communicator, I think, by trade. That's why talking is what I do best. Networking, bringing people together. And right from the start, I recognized the importance of the human factor, which I have to say I am now delighted in the last 5 years is really coming to the fore. What I'm less pleased about is all those people who have always said it wasn't worth bothering about, now all championing it as if they thought of it in the first bloody place. But never mind, that's such human nature. I'm just so pleased that it's coming now to be such an important part of the story. So I always focused on the human aspects. I left the Air Force in 1991. I did a bit of time with Deloitte, was Touche Ross in those days, to learn about being a civilian. I was in their computer audit department, which was just the worst place in the world for me. I just couldn't get it, and I didn't understand it, and it was boring anyway. I'm not saying that computer audit is boring, but it was for me anyway. I then moved across to Kroll, which was a big American counterintelligence firm based in Savile Row in London, and set up their original computer security consultancy. I then did about 18 months as what would now be called the CISO at Standard Chartered Bank before I left and set up the Security Company International, which was a security awareness company. And that's where I stayed until we sold that in a management buyout a couple of years ago to Zoe and her husband, Tony. And they're going from strength to strength, I'm delighted to say. And was allowed to focus on the SASIG, which has become the real love of my life. So all the way through that, right from the mid-90s onwards, I've been working certainly for myself to champion the cause of the human aspect of cybersecurity. And I've been up and I've been down. You talk about a journey. I'm either up there or I'm down there. And I've written about much of those adventures on our website. If anybody's interested in the con that nearly did for me, or the day I nearly started World War III, the day I met the Queen, all these various stories that I wrote them for my kids originally, but they're all up on the website, and it's such a lot of fun. And I'm just so pleased to see where our industry is going, and it is coming together now. It really is, and the fact that the council is now up and running so successfully, I think, is one of the clearest signals that this industry is finally maturing, is finally realizing that it is a grown-up part of the business circle, and it needs to behave like that.
Excellent. And we're going to come back to those kind of points in a moment, Mike. So in relation to SASIG, so explain what SASIG is and what kind of things that you do, and why was it established?
Well, we were doing security awareness, and my God, that was a tough sell. We're talking the early 2000s here. I don't think there were more than a few percent of organizations where what we then call the computer security function took this seriously. IT security was run by IT people. You know, as I always said, the Air Force is run by pilots, the NHS is run by doctors, businesses are run by accountants, and the IT security industry was run by techies. So the whole focus, and I am talking 99% of the focus, 99% of the budget, 90% time and effort was focused on the technology. And probably at the time that was not unreasonable, since the technology was emerging. But I always felt that the people side should emerge alongside it, but it just didn't get any attention, any bandwidth whatsoever. And of course, what you saw then was that our technical defenses were getting stronger, and yet all the attacks were coming in through the human layer. And that's where I think things have changed, is that people have now realized, we've done whatever we can. Technology is mature. Technology works. IT security itself is now excellent. We've got all the tools we need, and permutations on thousands of them. But they're not going to work unless we've dealt with the human layer as well. And that's now happening, which is so encouraging. So we're in the early 2000s. I'm trying to sell security awareness to make a living, and it's impossible because no one's interested. No, that's not fair. Some people were, and that made us a living, but I could see that there was so much more to be done. So I started the Security Awareness Special Interest Group to raise awareness about security awareness. I mean, the Security Awareness Special Interest Group. And it started slow. There was a slow burn for, 5-10 years, but in about 2014 and 15, when there was a step change, you could see that the human element was starting to really get some traction. Right. Suddenly the interest in the SASIG just blossomed, and we became a networking group as much as anything. Right. I call it a CISO safe zone. There's no selling allowed in SASIG whatsoever. Right. That was always a problem, because until about 6 years ago, it was all paid for out of our own pockets, because how can I get sponsors to give me money to run SASIG if I then said to them, but you're not allowed to sell to the members? And eventually Jo, my wife, business partner, she said, well, this is stupid. Why don't you at least ask some people? So I spoke to a few mates, and they said, we'd love to support you. We'd love to sponsor you. We get the whole idea about not trying to sell to the members. We don't want to sell. We just want to, contribute. And that's where the supporter program started. I'll come back to that in a minute, if I may.
Absolutely.
And slowly and very, very, very thoroughly, our numbers started to increase, and people started coming to us to discuss primarily the human layer, but other issues as well. And we were doing fine. We were now running about 35 physical events a year, and our membership was up to a little bit over 3,000. And then we had lockdown.
Right.
Suddenly, we couldn't do what we do. We didn't have a living anymore. We couldn't run physical events. We had done one webinar.
Right.
And so I said to the team, well, why don't we do a webinar every day? And they looked at me as if I'd gone mental. And I said, look, no, we'll do one every day. It can't be that difficult.
Yeah.
This thing will be over by Easter. Famous last word.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we pivoted onto online events, and we ran a webinar every day, and we're still doing it. We're down to 3 a week now, because we're starting to do physical events as well. Yeah. But the rationale was very simple. I think people have, by the way, Simon, stop me when I'm boring you, won't you?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, it's excellent, Martin. Just continue.
The rationale was that I think we're already all forgetting just how scared we all were at the start of lockdown. And we were all scared. We were going to scared of dying, losing our jobs, our families dying, the world going bust. People were terrified. We're locked at home, not allowed to go out. Yeah. And so we set ourselves the target of being there every day at 11 o'clock, regardless.
Right.
And we talked about all sorts of things, not just cybersecurity. We did mental health and wellness. Right. Diversity, we special, things that interested me. We had a couple of sessions on me building my new house in Whitby, anything at all, so that we just knew, or people just knew, that there'd be somewhere to go at 11 o'clock every day to meet up with some mates. And it just took off. It just took off. And honestly, Simon, if you could see some of the emails that I got over that period in particular, but since, they made me cry, because it made me realize just what an important rock the SASIG was every day to our members. Just the comfort of knowing that they could meet up with other people at a certain place, and just know that the world's going on. I'm not setting myself up as any great big sort of senior or anything. It just, that seemed to be something useful that we could do during those particularly dark days. And it just carried on, and the numbers just kept going up and up and up. I had a check yesterday. We're now on 7,300 members. So over the space of just over 2 years, we've more than doubled. And as I said, we've done 500 plus now. We are getting back into the real world, and we are starting to well, you know that we are. We're up to about 2 a month. We'll soon be 3 a month physical events.
Right.
So we'll be doing 12 webinars and 3 or 4 physical events a year from going forward now. And we're not losing any numbers on the webinars. We had one yesterday with 190 people registered for it.
Yeah, excellent.
So
excellent.
yeah. So that's where we are now. The supporter program is our sponsors, really. These are organizations that get the SASIG mission. They understand the importance of building that human layer and integrating technology with the human layer. They're not there to sell to the members, because we don't allow it.
Right.
But they are there to build relationships with the members. And my thing about that is that if you build a relationship with the end users, a vendor will get the business in the end.
Yeah.
We did some surveys during lockdown about what makes CISOs buy and what turns them off.
Right.
And the CISO said, we will buy from people we trust, even if the product is inferior or the costs are higher. We will only deal with people we trust.
Yeah.
So it's so important for vendors to build that relationship over time. And that's what our supporters are there to do. They also said at the beginning of lockdown, in fact, all throughout lockdown, is that lockdown's not a sales opportunity, guys. If we didn't know you beforehand, we have certainly not got the time or the energy to find about you now. Yeah. So that's where our supporter cadre really benefited, because they already had that relationship with the community, and they've contributed at least half of those 500 webinars. Wow. So yeah, I just think that I've got this massive thing about vendors and users they should not be enemies. They, we're both on the same side here. That the vendors, some of them behave like the enemy, and there's some rubbish salespeople out there, but there's some rubbish CISOs as well. I mean, we can't blame both sides. Not everybody is brilliant at their jobs, and so we ought to cut the sales cycle a bit of slack. They've got a living to make as well. But we like to think that in the SASIG environment, it's done in a gentlemanly fashion. Where the vendors are there to contribute to the debate, to build a relationship, to explain who they are, what they do. And then if and when a user organization wants their products, they'll know where to go to. That's our model. And it's not broken, so we've absolutely no intentions of fixing it.
Absolutely. And I think throughout obviously, COVID and lockdown, one of the things you were providing was that consistency. So especially for people's well-being, there's a lot of things that are unstable, but that stability, 11 o'clock every day, I can connect with my network. I'll connect with somewhere where we can have a conversation, where we can network. So I think just providing that, actually, you've done a lot for the emotional well-being and mental health of the wider profession. So again, just to say thank you and well done.
You're welcome. I mean, she's not here at the moment, but Doris, where is Doris? Doris came on every day for the first 18 months. And come here, Dor, come and get a treat. Come here. I'll see if I can get her to come down. She's getting old now. But no, I mean, that was silly. She had her own fan club, Simon.
I saw it.
Well, I just say we've forgotten it now. But at the time, it was such a strange time.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Absolutely.
Are you coming? Come on, here she comes. Come and have a treat. Come on. There's a lot of people out there. Come here. Come on. Here you go. Come here. Oh, there she is. There's Doris. So for all my friends out there that have missed Doris, there she is.
Hello, Doris.
Hello, bless her. She's a bad-tempered little old thing, but we love her.
Absolutely.
There you go. She's in her basket now. So yes, it was a privilege to do it. It was a privilege to do it, and as a result, we've now got this sort of legacy of people being comfortable online with the online webinars. Yeah. So all our physical events from now on are streamed, because Joseph invested heavily in a tripod and an iPhone on a stand. So when we run our events now, we just stream them out, and we're doubling the audiences for our physical events as well.
Yeah. Excellent. And how big's your team, and who's involved? Because there's an awful lot of events and activities, and also how come it's free? Who are your members? How is free, and how big's your team?
There's 9 of us.
Right.
Myself, Danny King is our managing director. Jo Wise, my wife, is our finance director, and then we've got a team of 6, 7 who do everything. I have to tell you, mate, I have no idea how they do it. I just have no idea. It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I keep having ideas, and they keep going, oh, gee, okay then. Yeah, that's all. That's all there is. And why is it free? Because our supporters provide us with enough money to run.
Right, perfect.
We're not really here. I'm at the end of my working life now. I'm 70 next birthday. We're not in this for running it as a business. We need to earn a living and cover our costs, but all the money that we get, we plow back into the business. So over the lockdown period in particular, we invested back into creating what we call our big SASIG, which is a physical conference now, but the first year it was online, a first big grown-up conference as such.
Yeah.
And as you know as well, we've put a lot of effort and money into what we call our skills festivals, which is our effort to bridge the gap between the vacancies and the number of people coming in. And it's I suppose it's my old age mission now, is to do my little bit to try and close that gap. Right. And so we're delighted that we run our skills festivals now in partnership with your good selves.
Absolutely. Yep, which we can definitely talk to in detail. No, absolutely, and that's great. And in relation to your members, who are your members, Mike? Because I've obviously been to some of your events, and I meet a large kind of plethora of people from different professions, sectors, different roles within cybersecurity and wider. So just share with the audience some of your kind of members.
Yeah, anybody's welcome to come to any of our online webinars. A few of them are members only. Yeah. So we have a large number of 7,300 people who receive our communications about our events. The majority of those are members, but we do exclude vendors and suppliers from the members only part of the website and some of our activities. To be a member, it just means that you're an end user working in cybersecurity at all levels, from the very lowest to the very highest, in government, academia, law enforcement. The vendor community are welcome to join in, but as I said, we do restrict some of the activities to end users only, so that they do feel it's that safe zone. And we welcome anybody and everybody with open arms, and not just to come along and listen, but to contribute as well. I think it's a pretty Catholic community. There's just about everybody from every sort of role in the cybersecurity story that you can think of. We are increasingly getting people from the legal sector, so your internal legal people. We get quite a lot of data privacy people joining in now, which I don't think there's any difference between information security, data privacy. I think they are very much the same beast. Business lines, HR people. And I just love it, absolutely love it. And we've got great plans for the future. We've got our gala dinner coming up in later this month, which I know you're coming to, which I'm delighted about. And there's some important announcements being made between now and then about what SASIG is going to be doing to take us to the next level. And I just, now that we've had this, I mean, it sounds awful, and please don't take it the wrong way, but now we've had this great lockdown, and it has been great for us. It's transformed our business for the better. Right. Now that we've made all that progress and we've got people used to the online environment, we're really going to make the most of that and really ramp up what we're doing. And we've got some great ideas for new projects and things like that. Excellent. And all of this, almost by accident.
Right. Yeah. And tell us, from your view, what do you see as some of the key challenges within the cybersecurity profession?
Well, there's only one. Yeah. There's only one. That's the skills gap.
Yeah.
I've got this thing. We deal with problems because that's our job. Tactically, breaches, all the other things that we do in our lives, that's what we get paid to do. You know? The only challenge that I think we face at the moment that will absolutely stymie our industry for good unless we get on top of it is the skills gap. Yeah. because we're not feeding the industry with enough new blood. We're not attracting enough people. I'm not going to say young people, but that's obviously where the majority should come from, but not attracting enough people into the industry. So our role is growing, our influence is growing, our profile is growing, the demand for our services is growing, but we're not. So the only strategic challenge that we face, that we do have to get on top of, is the skills gap. Now, we talk about lockdown. I believe that lockdown was our great breakthrough. This was our great audition. You talk about a journey. This is that audition on the X Factor where everybody noticed us. Imagine lockdown before cyberspace. 10 years ago, let's say 10 years ago, we could not have survived it. We wouldn't be able to work online, bank online, communicate online. You know, we were already in cyberspace before the lockdown, and we were able to use cyberspace to survive as a country. And we could not have done that without cybersecurity. And so if, again, you remember the early days of lockdown, the only person at the table that counted was the cybersecurity person, because the business was saying, we need to do this online. How can we do it safely and securely? Our industry rose to the occasion. I have never seen anything like it. I was so proud to be part of that. We came up to the mark. We did, in a very short time, months, did a decade's worth of work in distributing the business out to people's front rooms, dining rooms, kitchens, you name it. So suddenly we went from being that little unknown function within IT that was just a pain in the arse and a budget drain, and we don't need it anyway because nothing's ever happened bad to us. Suddenly we went from that to being the main voice, saying, well, in order to do this, we've got to do this, this, and this. And I just think we now need to make hay with that before things return too much to business as usual, and the business starts to forget that we were their saviors. We really were their saviors.
No,
I don't know, what's your view on that?
No, absolutely. And there was an interesting point, what we've discussed before, around the profession eating its own flesh when it comes to talent. Do you want to explain to delegates around that?
I think it's an amazing career. I really do, for young people of any persuasion. Now, there are, I don't know, Chris Ensel from NCSC talks about the 22 disciplines in cybersecurity, of which 3 are only technical. But he then adds and says, but unfortunately, it is a technical profession. So you do need to have some technical knowledge or a technical bent. So we need to attract young people, but we can also attract people in from other trades, other business lines, other parts of the business, someone that's looking for a change in direction or a career path that's got much more openings than their current ones, perhaps engineering, HR, you name it, supply, all these various different business lines. There's the Army, Navy, Air Force, ex-service people. There's a huge amount of opportunity to recruit massively competent and hugely trained individuals. They may not be trained in IT security, but in my little business, I only ever recruit for attitude, never for, we can teach. People can learn what we do. Some of it takes a bit more learning, but so we don't have to be exclusively looking for IT graduates. We don't. I met a young lady a few weeks back. Well, my wife and I were traveling on our canal boat, and she's in her 4th year of a Russian degree. And she was fascinated by the idea of coming into cybersecurity. Young, trained mind, keen to learn. What is there not to like?
Absolutely.
And that's so true. And that's why the Skills Festival is designed primarily to attract those people. So we're talking to every single one of the universities in the UK, getting them to send along their students to this one-day job fair and conference to learn about our industry and to attract them into it. And from the ones that you've done with us, the results from those are just immense. We're getting so many people coming into our industry. There are so many different initiatives we could do with pulling it all together a bit.
Absolutely. Yes.
But you know, there are cybersecurity is such an opportunity for anyone.
Yeah.
It's greenfield for anybody that's not quite sure about what they want to do with their lives. You know, perhaps they're getting a degree that they don't know quite what to do with.
Absolutely.
Come and have a look at cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
Now, can I make a really big point here, which I know you're absolutely in agreement with? Okay. Now, for us to solve this strategic challenge,
that's right. Yeah.
We all have to play our part. Now,
right.
I have seen organizations investing hugely in attracting and training new talent. To have that new talent immediately stolen by other organizations who aren't being quite so responsible and grown up, that has to change. The other thing I've seen is that you've got the existing talent being moved around like some sort of merry-go-round, like some sort of feeding frenzy. The only people that benefit from that are the headhunters. So you've got your people, they've got talents, they've got knowledge, they've got experience, and they get dragged away to another organization for a pay rise. Well, that can't go on forever. So organizations have to invest in the future. It's no good saying, oh, we can't afford it. Little old SASIG, right? There's less than a dozen of us. We are always investing in young people, and they are then moving on to other opportunities. And yeah, it's a pain at the time, but I welcome it, because that's what any responsible business should be doing, is training the next generation, even if there's a cost, because those people that have gone on from us, they're still there. They're our friends out in the world.
Absolutely.
Back to us, and they bring everything back to us. So that's my big beef is, if you're an organization and you think this isn't your problem, it bloody is. And you cannot carry on poaching from other organizations. You have to start investing in the future and recognizing that the probable danger from that is that you'll do that and then somebody will steal from you. But unless we break that cycle now, and more and more organizations invest in those young people, we're never going to get over it. So there you go. I'll shut up now.
No, absolutely spot on. And we've had several conversations about this, and I think you're absolutely right. And it's really important. I think we got that over to obviously delegates that are watching us today. Just to say for everyone that's watching, that on the right hand side, we've got the comments box. If you want to put your questions in the comments box, then Helen will kind of share them with Martin and I, and I'll pose the questions. A question around the profession. So based on what you're saying there, Martin, how would you make the cybersecurity profession a profession of choice? So the same way that people choose to be accountants, engineers, join the army, etc. How can we make it so both for young people want to join the profession, also for career changes? How can we make it a profession of choice?
Well, I think the big issue here is that we're the best kept secret still. We need to shout from the highest hilltops about who we are and what we do. And then we need to tell people what an attractive career it is. There are few careers at the moment that are so greenfield, that are so open. I'm trying to think of another industry that's at such an early stage of its development, in such an important part of the business community. I genuinely can't think of anything that is more opportunistic, of greater opportunity to a young person. You're looking around the jobs landscape thinking, I could be an accountant, I could be a doctor, I could be this, I could be that. This is the one that I will tell everybody has got the greatest future, the greatest opportunity for you, because we've only been going 30 years. We've only been going properly for 10 years. The deficit in jobs is in its millions. There's so much opportunity here. So we need to tell people about the profession and explain to them what those opportunities are. We don't do either of those well enough at the moment.
Right, excellent.
And when people do come into the industry, how quickly they can progress. You're up against the big four offer and the big legal firms offering £100,000 to graduates. I get that, but what you're going to do? Go and well, no, I'm not going to say it, but people don't pay that much money for nothing. Whereas you can start in the cybersecurity industry and very quickly progress through the various stages to be very well rewarded in work that contributes genuinely to the success of the business you're working in and UK PLC. And in the Skills Festival, I keep coming back. And again, stop me when I'm talking too much.
No, absolutely fine, Mike.
At the Skills Festival, there are two communities at work here. The first are the people looking for those talents. So we have stands, exhibition stands, and they're free. Everything's free in SASIG. So if you're looking to recruit people, or you want to meet young people and see what they've got to offer, get a stand. It's all free. But then there's the people that are looking to come into the industry. And in the first couple of job fairs and skills festivals, we tried to address everybody's needs. But what we're focusing on now is not those people who want to get the next level in the industry, but those people that want to come into the industry. And you have been very supportive. It's a SASIG and UK CSC combined venture. And we're trying to let organizations know we're there if they want to get a stand to look at the talent. And we want to tell the talent that we're there if they want to come along and look at the opportunities. And I can't remember the stats now, but I mean, it's more than doubling each time we do it. The key stat are job interviews, the number of interviews that result from the Skills Festival. And it was something like 1,200 last time.
Right. Excellent.
So that's 1,200 young people who have met with potential employers. I don't know whether any of those have turned into appointment. I'm assuming some of them must, but that's not the point. The point is getting that connection between fresh new talent and those organizations that are short of it. So I'm going back to your question, what are the big issues for our industry? That's the only one. Everything else we're on top of. Everything else we can solve. Ransomware, we'll solve it. Viruses are, we've dealt with that before. All the rest of it. All those are what I would call tactical issues. That's what we do for a living. I remember if you remember that British Airways jetliner that landed short of the runway at Heathrow a few years ago.
Yes, I remember.
I knew the pilots, and they were like, I sit there on my backside for 30 years. All I needed to do was to be there to land that jet on the runway safely, and everybody walked away. I'm not a hero. That's what I do for a living, right? So my point is, when it comes to solving cybersecurity issues, that's what we do for a living. There's no point in saying, look how well we've done. We've solved all this ransomware. No, that's what you're there for. Please don't expect any laud and, shaking of hands, everything for doing your job. The challenge that you need to face is who's going to come up behind you and replace you when you're worn out and tired and want to retire. That's the bit that we haven't yet still got a million miles to travel.
Excellent. And that links really nicely into the council. So what advice would you give the council, or what kind of to create the biggest impact in the profession, and your kind of views of how we're doing to date?
Well, okay, let me just back that up a bit and say that, and it is well documented this, I have been the greatest, loudest advocate, praise giver, whatever, of the UK government. I've been watching their efforts since the late 2000s. I've seen the way that we've developed strategies and renewed them every 5 years. I've seen the resource that's gone into NCSC, GCHQ, DCMS, Home Office, Cabinet Office. I've seen the work that the government has done to bring cybersecurity forward and to make the UK the safest place to do business online, all the rest of it. It's not just words. They've done it. They've done it. And we stand head and shoulders above the rest of the world. And I will say that. I know the States are doing a lot as well, but I feel we're the gold standard. So in terms of what UK PLC is doing, I think it's been world class and world beating. Still lots to do, and still lots to do. In terms of the council, I cannot welcome it enough. I've seen at least 2 previous attempts stumble.
Yep.
For understandable reasons. The industry wasn't necessarily mature enough. The organizations involved were not necessarily mature enough themselves.
Right.
I think the council was always going to have its time, and that time has arrived.
Right.
And the key to it, and I'm not telling you anything here you don't know, but the key to it is to get the members to work together.
Yep. Absolutely.
Not to fight each other, not to compete against each other. There is no competition here. We're all of us. SASIG is part of the council. We're proud of that. We're all here to work for the best of the profession. I'm not naive. I know that some of your members are in competition with each other. Of course they are. They're membership organizations and so on. But I think the council does rise above that. That this is about making sure that all of the industry, from the professional bodies, the vendors, the user organizations, the corporates, they now all work together via the council to support the government in its work. I think that is absolutely key. The government can't do everything. I've said this many times, and the government have said it. We're not here to make your organizations secure. That's your job. We can't do it for you. But we will do everything we can to help you. And I mean, the stuff that NCSC produces that organizations don't even know about, let alone don't even use. You know, there's so much available to an organization. There's so much that organizations, so much more that organizations could be doing that the government are spoon feeding them with, and they're still not quite getting there yet. So the council, you know what, sir, congratulations. What you've achieved in the last 12 months is simply phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that to curry favor. I don't tend to curry favor, you may have noticed. It's simply a statement of fact. What you've achieved in 12 months is phenomenal. And it's holding together. The alliance is stronger than it was at the start. Your member organizations, including ourselves, are genuinely in step for the greater good. And well done.
No, thank you, Martin. My final question before going to questions based on what delegates put forward is: today we've got a new Prime Minister. So, what would you say to Liz Truss and her new cabinet?
I'm not a political beast, so I'm not getting to the politics of it all. I'm just going to refer you back to what I said. This government, all governments for the last 15 years or more, have been working really well to bring cybersecurity up the scale of visibility and importance within the business and law enforcement communities. The fact that not more has been achieved is not, I don't think, necessarily their fault. It's the fault of organizations not investing as much as they should in cybersecurity.
Right.
So I would just say I'm not sure that, does it go down as far as, does it go up as far as the Prime Minister? I suppose it must, but I think it's just hold steady. I think it's biz where it counts. It's DCMS where it counts. Cabinet Office, Home Office. That's where the resource and the knowledge and the initiatives lie. I would just urge that they all continue to do more of the same.
Right.
I don't think the government is doing anything wrong. That sounds a bit patronizing. I don't mean it like that. The only thing they could do more is more.
Right. Okay.
With all budgets are finite and all effort is finite. The only thing they could do more is more of what they're doing.
Right.
But let's trickle down what they've done already into where it should start hitting the concrete, because at the moment the wheels are just spinning. They're doing so much that is not being taken up by industry.
Right.
They're doing so much that could be made so much more of if organizations just reached out and engaged with the stuff that's available. And not just material, but services and Oh, there is a huge amount. One of the things that we're planning on is a day in the life of NCSC. I'd like to do a day event where we get NCSC, and we're talking to them about it, to come along and just explain what it is that's available from them, from BIS, from DCMS, from all the other organizations.
Yeah, perfect.
There is such a lot of talent and knowledge at the government level that is there for organizations to make the use of.
Yeah.
The fact that they don't is not the government's fault. It's our organizations that aren't engaging as they should.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Martin. That was, a really good chat, conversation, interview. Thank you for sharing.
It seems a bit quiet on the chat box. I think I may have shut everybody up.
Helen, in relation to questions, have we got any questions that's come through? I'm just flipping on there at the moment. Helen will jump back in. And what we'll then talk about is just some of the events that you've got coming up and some events that we've got.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Hi. So we haven't got any coming just yet. I just wanted to ask from my point of view, if it's all right, for people that might be watching that are already involved in the cybersecurity sector. I know you spoke quite a lot about the different kind of areas and their progression. I suppose what would be your advice to those people that do want to progress in the industry that are maybe already in it?
Who want to progress that are already in it? Well, that's very much up down to their organizations. Any organization worth its salt should be developing individuals within their various functions. There's an awful lot of growth that any individual could take within their specialization, but they can also grow into other parts of the cybersecurity industry. Again, I go back to the government. There's all sorts of training opportunities that are available there. You just need to do your research. If you are in cybersecurity and you wish to progress, then it's the same as in any other industry. Learn, network, look at what other opportunities are available. Talk to others in your industry about what they do. There's nothing special about cybersecurity, developing a career in cybersecurity. Once you're in it, it's like any other career, except there is a huge amount of potential, untapped potential in our industry. In many industries, it's sort of like dead men's shoes. You've got to wait for people up the chain to die or retire before you can progress. It's not the case with us. There are so many opportunities at every level. You're only limited by your own ability, enthusiasm, endeavor. That's one of the reasons it's such an exciting career. Why are you moving across into the cybersecurity spectrum?
No, it was just a comment that we had earlier on social media, and I thought it'd be interesting to get your opinion on.
Nobody's safe from me. Anybody I meet, I ask them what they do, and I say, "Have you thought about cybersecurity?" No. So and we get them to come along to the Skills Festival. So if anybody is interested in progressing within the industry, then still come along to the Skills Festival and go and meet the exhibitors. The focus is on new entrants, but there are still many organizations that will be there that are looking for appointments further up the food chain within their outfits. But apart from, I was at college with a lad called Dexter, and this is my Dexter principle, right? And Dexter was not the cleanest student or the most well-behaved or well-mannered. And I, in contrast, always considered myself as a bit of a gentleman and opened car doors for ladies and all that sort of old-fashioned stuff now, I know. And I never had a girlfriend. Dexter always had a girlfriend. And I said, "Dex, how is it, man? I mean, mate, look at you. I mean, you're feral. How is it you've always got a pretty girlfriend?" And he said, "I get out a lot." And that's the Dexter principle. And if you go to our website, there's a blog on it, the Dexter principle. So my view on anything in life is just to get out, to meet people, go to events, go to webinars, go and talk to exhibitors at the Skills Festival. Yeah. You ain't going to get yourself a girlfriend sat at home. The only way you're going to get a girlfriend is if you go out, get out a lot. Now, I know that's old-fashioned and misogynistic, and it's not meant to be. So for girlfriend, read boyfriend. But I'm talking about 50 years ago that this happened. And I've never forgotten Dexter. He just got out a lot. So my team always get out a lot. That's why we run events. We go to events, just get out a lot. Yeah. So if anybody wants to learn more about a profession, get out there, go and talk to people.
Absolutely.
It is such an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen.
100%. And Martin, do you want to just say just a bit about obviously the SASIG skills event on the, just checking the dates, 18th of October. So again, where people can find out more information, etc. And then
I'll go to our website. If you go to our website, thesasig.com, there's a tab there that says Skills Festival. Just get signed up, come along. It's all free. If you are an organization that wants to meet new talent, get in touch with Joseph, or just contact us. Get yourself an exhibition stand. It's all online. It doesn't cost any effort. Nothing, no cost involved. And then you'll be able to advertise your wares, lay out your table and say, this is what we do. These are the sorts of people we're looking for. If you're looking to enter the industry, just come along. Yeah. We've done this now. This is our 4th time. We do know there's a definite curve where nothing happens till the last week, and we'll go from 50 people registered to 1,500. Because it's the sort of vast majority of students. They're studying. We time it so that it's coming up to Freshers Week, and we time it so that it's coming up to finals. So we do one in the autumn and one in the spring. And this is not just about us, Helen. This is UK Cybersecurity Council running this as well. You know, this is your show as much as ours. So, and we've had conversations on our progress meetings just to get out to all the professional bodies and say, you know, we're not making any money out of this. This is not a money spinning event. It's a service to the community, jointly between ourselves and yourselves. Come along to it. And if any of the professional bodies are listening here today, tell your members about this. This is not competing with anything you're doing. It's not going to rub off in you in any way. It's just one thing we can all do to try and address that one strategic challenge that will scupper us. If we don't solve this, ladies and gentlemen, in 5 years' time, we will go back to where we were pre-COVID. We'll be back on our back feet, struggling, not achieving what our businesses want of us, not because we don't have the skill or because we're not enthusiastic enough, but we just haven't fed the the pipeline of talent enough. Yeah, I'm beginning to sound boring now, but it's
no, not at all. And what's just come through? So thanks very much, Richard Hall. We've got a question that's just come in, Martin. So what's the link between SASIG and ISACA?
Well, we have what we call associate organizations. You are one. It's any other organization that's out there doing good stuff. It's a contra arrangement. In the old-fashioned way, we'd call it a contra arrangement, where we simply tell everybody about what those organizations are doing, and those organizations tell everybody about what we're doing. ISACA have been great friends for us for several years now. We tell everybody about ISACA events. All ISACA members are invited to our events, and they can get CPD points. Right. So there is, I'm trying to think of there's nothing concrete in place. It's not a formal arrangement as such. It's just because SASIG is relatively unformed and informal in how we go about our business, we just tell other professional organizations about what we do. And there are many such organizations that work very closely with us. The Security Institute, the International Compliance Association. I'm trying to think of all of them. The vast majority of the council's members are all part of our associate organization movement. It's just that if I can talk to one person at ISACA and that person can tell the ISACA membership, then it's just about gearing up. And we reach ISACA, a lot of ISACA members come to our events, and we're delighted to have you and anybody else out there that wants to come along.
Lovely. Thank you, Martin. Thank you for your question, Richard. If anyone's got any additional questions, please put them in the comments box on the right-hand side. While we're waiting for that, I'll just give you some updates on some events that we have within the council. So I'm going to look on my other screen. So Martin did mention Chris. So on the 7th of October, we have Chris Ensor, so Deputy Director of Cyber Growth within NCSC, who's going to be part of the cyber brief. So we'll be having that conversation about Chris's journey and around the work, obviously, of NCSC, who's obviously our strategic technical partner. on the 14th of September, so next week, what was that? Next week, Wednesday, we basically have what we call a cyber role models webinar. So I think we're talking to Tamsin, Greenfield, and Tamsin is, and it's really about talking about Tamsin's journey, and really it's very similar to, this is more for cyber leaders. The role models is really about people who are new to the industry and different routes into the industry. So we'll be having conversations with Tamsin next week, and there's one hot off the press, which I'm sure we're going to be putting some comms out on the 13th of, I'm looking side here, do apologize, 13th of September. We've got a meet and greet, a few spaces left for a meet and greet with our board of trustees in London. So there's only, I think there's only,
I'll be there.
Great.
I'll be there.
Excellent. So that's taking place in London. Very limited spaces available. Do contact us, events at ukcybersecuritycouncil.org.uk for further information. SASIG event on the 18th of October, as mentioned, and also the EMIC Ethnic Minorities in Cyber event on the 11th of October. All the information will be on our website. So there's a lot of activities, both online and thanks Helen, for excellent for both online, so virtual and physical, and we're really looking forward to that. And just giving a heads up, International Women's Day, March the 8th next year, fantastic event being planned. We're obviously looking forward to that as well. So some physical events, but we're doing a lot of obviously our virtual events. So we've just in a question that's come through. So from Matthias Rangel. Okay, so for those who want to start a career, thank you. For those who want to start a career in cyber security, what certification do you suggest as the first one? This is a very popular question on LinkedIn and to ourselves. Martin.
No, I'm going to leave you to answer that one.
Excellent.
I am entirely self-taught. My generation, there were no such things as about certifications.
Yeah.
And I don't hire because someone's got a certification. I hire because someone wants to do well. Yeah. But certifications are hugely important. Simon, what do you think is what would you think are the best ones to get first?
Yes. So what I would suggest is on our website we have the different specialisms called the career route map. So it depends on what particular interest, whether security testing, security architecture, audit and assurance, what your particular interest is. And what we're then looking at is what we call career mapping. So looking at the different qualifications and certifications and what are they basically aligned to. So it's really based on what's your particular area of interest and then what certificate would support you in that. But exactly as Martin says, I think a lot of employers that we basically speak to, one, they're really interested in the people's basically, so one kind of knowledge and experience. It's more really around the kind of passion and commitment and that open-mindedness around joining the profession and then kind of joining us on that basis. So I think it's more based on that. But do look on our website, career route map, and it should explain some of the information.
Simon, can I just give the other side to that?
Absolutely.
If you're an employer looking for talent, don't write down every single qualification in the world as a basic requirement for the most junior jobs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Give everybody, including yourselves, a bit of a chance here, please.
Yeah. Agreed. No, you're absolutely right, Mike. And I think that, and again, that is one of the barriers to joining the profession, because exactly as Matthias is basically posing the question.
And another reason is because, if you are looking to recruit, don't give the job to your HR people, because to them, they're not specialists. Yeah. By all means, they have to do the process, but don't allow them to set the job spec or don't allow them to set levels of expectation. You as the specialist, the CISO or the technical member of team looking for a resource, you need to set those levels of expectation, and HR need to reflect it. Don't let HR drive.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right, Martin. And I think part of the challenge has been around where very similar roles and some of the certifications, qualifications and experience is completely not aligned to what's actually expected. So really some of the work that we're doing around both our role models works and kind of our generic kind of job descriptions will be based on what's the key kind of, what's the real detail of the role, but also what kind of qualifications or experience or characteristics do you basically need to join that.
Can I just say right at the end, if anybody on the call hasn't enjoyed the SASIG experience, just come along, get signed up, join up, just come along. It's the more the merrier.
Perfect. And that's the final word for Martin. And I think we're just going to, we go 3 o'clock on the dot. Martin, can I just say a massive thank you for your time, for your input, for sharing your knowledge and experience. Always a pleasure. So thank you so much.
Well, I'll raise a glass with you next week in London.
Yes, perfect. Looking forward to it.
And I'll meet you then, Helen, hopefully.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
And thank you to all our listeners listening to this old man rabbit on. But I've learned a few things over the last half a century.
Absolutely. And it's important to share. Thank you, Martin. And well done, Helen. Okay, everyone. Absolutely great to see you all. Look forward to seeing you all in the coming weeks. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.